Hi, everybody, and welcome to our conversation with OSU Hall of Fame pitcher Tarrah Beyster. I'm Maureen Nikaido. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations for the College of Liberal Arts here at OSU. And this interview that we're doing tonight is part of a 3-week online book club where we're reading the book Fastpitch, The Untold History of Softball and the Women Who Made the Game. And it's brought to you by the College of Liberal Arts and the Oregon State Alumni Association. So our facilitator of the course and tonight's moderator is Professor Susan Shaw. Susan is Professor of Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies here at Oregon State. And among other things, she teaches gender, race, and sports. And she's an avid Beaver believer. And our guest tonight is Tarrah Beyster, 4-time All-American and then All-Pac-10 athlete while at OSU. Tarrah had 91 wins and was the 2000 NCAA Woman of the Year in the state of Oregon. And she was also a very accomplished batter with a .382 batting average with 143 RBI. And then NCAA record 211 walks. So I guess somebody broke that. And her name recently showed up on the 7 Innings podcast bracket for the greatest college pitchers who rake. And maybe she'll tell us a little bit about that. So we'll leave time at the end of tonight's conversation for you to ask questions. Feel free to type in your questions anytime. At the bottom of the screen, you should see a little Q&A icon, and we're using that, not chat. I don't even know if you can see chat, but use Q&A to ask your questions, and we'll ask those of Tarrah at the end. I think that's it for me, and with that, I'll turn it over to you, Susan.
Thanks, Maureen, and thanks, Tarrah, for being with us. I'm really excited that you're here because one other thing Maureen didn't mention is Tarrah was also one of my students back in the day, and so it's been really nice to reconnect. Yeah, so it's good to see you from Michigan.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I loved your class. I loved it. It was one of my favorite classes. I talk about all the time still.
All right, that's good. Always nice to hear. And Tarrah, you'll be interested to know, I was looking at the list of folks who are tuning in, and there are some former OSU softball players in the mix, including at least, 1, maybe 2 pitchers that I know of. So
pressure's on. Pressure's on.
So why don't we start off and tell us what you're up to these days? What are you doing?
Oh, well, I currently live in Michigan, actually. Long story. I started coaching immediately right out of college. I loved it and fell in love with watching my coach, Kirk Walker was the head coach when I was at Oregon State. We're still very close. And I fell in love with the idea of coaching while I was there. I was a psychology major and thought forever that I was going to somehow enter the medical field, and that drastically changed. And I entered the coaching world immediately out of college and loved that and knew that was the path I wanted to take, and started my career coaching at Bradley University in Illinois. So I moved to the Midwest and then stayed out here, coached at Indiana and then Toledo, and I just loved it out here. So currently I'm in the private sector after coaching college for 13 years. And I love the fact that I can work with young athletes from 6. My youngest one has been 6 years old, believe it or not, all the way up to 18, and then watch them go to college and share that moment with them. And then when they come back during winter break or summer break, I get to work with them again. So for me, I love it because in college, you only get athletes for 4 to 5 years, 5 if you're lucky. And sometimes I've had these kiddos for 10 years and watched them grow up and get them during their development years and get very close with their families. So it's been really rewarding. And I currently have my own private lesson business in Michigan, and it's called BEST. It's an acronym for Beyster's Elite Softball Training. I have my own indoor facility. It's actually just on the other side of the border in Ohio, in Toledo, Ohio. I also still coach. I could not get away from coaching altogether. I just love it too much. And I coach a fantastic team, Texas Glory Midwest. I believe there's probably some of those kiddos watching right now and their parents. And it is a spinoff of the original Texas Glory out of Texas, Kevin Shelton, and he wanted to open up a Midwest chapter. And I've known him from college recruiting, and well, here I am coaching a 14U team, and we actually started a 12U team this year. So it's my second year coaching with them, and I love those little ones. And like I said, I think it's the best years to coach because they're so young and impressionable, and they don't think they know everything yet. And that I love. So that's what I'm doing now.
All right. Well, you were just inducted into OSU Sports Hall of Fame, so congratulations on that. What does that mean to you to be recognized like that by your alma mater?
I feel so honored and humbled. And I actually got a phone call, and I was surprised. I was not expecting it at all. And I don't get a lot of phone calls from Oregon, so I was surprised. And just to be included in such a prestigious, amazing, and inspiring group of men and women, especially in my class, going in with Coach Erickson, Coach Hill, who I met several times while I was at OSU, Danny Mwanga, Jody Taylor, I followed them. I'm always going to be a Beaver, orange and black run through these veins. So I continue to follow athletes and watch the sports. And I just feel lucky and privileged. And as much as it seems like an individual honor, it really took a village. There's no way possible it would have happened without my amazing coaches, my teammates, the athletic trainers that kept me healthy with all my injuries and some surgeries I had. Marianne Vidra, I love her to death. I don't know how many times I was in her office, just asking questions about life, stressing out about exams, probably one of yours. But there's just so many people that I can't thank enough for allowing me, I guess, to shine. There's no way I would have made it without them. So it's definitely an honor.
Yeah. Well, I think it's well deserved. It's very well deserved. Well,
So
we know from all the research how much playing sports benefits girls and women. How do you think playing softball benefited you?
For me personally, I think, I definitely wasn't going to be the gymnast in the family. I'm not 5'2" and 105 pounds, that's for sure. I think that's probably how much my one leg weighs at this point. I'm 6 foot. My mom and dad always joke that I was built like a linebacker and I should play for the San Diego Chargers because I'm from San Diego. So I think for me, it was a sport that allows you to be you. It doesn't discriminate. The game is pure. The ball doesn't care. The game doesn't care, what size you are, what color you are, how much you weigh, what you look like. If you're 6 foot or 5 foot, if you weigh 105 or 205, it doesn't care. What it cares about is that you can catch a ball, throw a ball, pitch a ball, hit a ball. It allowed me to have confidence in who I am and what I could do in my abilities and not be afraid that I could hit the ball farther than some of the boys and I could throw the ball harder than some of the boys. And another thing that I never would have been able to experience or travel just a lot of the places that I traveled, even growing up, if it wasn't for the game of softball and sports in general. I think by the time I was 18, I had been to Hawaii twice and on a plane probably 100 times. And I had friends that weren't involved in sports and they had never been on a plane. They had never been out of the city. And so I was very lucky to be able to experience that. Another huge thing for females, and I think young females, is especially when I was growing up, we were sort of taught to compete with females and not really learn to support each other. And back in the time in the, I guess, 80s, I'm dating myself, 80s and 90s. You're making me date myself here.
Just remember, I was teaching you, so
True.
Really dates me.
True. My younger kids don't know how old I am. I just gave it away. In the 80s and 90s, we were taught to, I don't know, I guess catcall or, be catty towards each other and not support each other. And playing softball, it allowed me to really look at other athletes, whether it was my teammates or opponents, and be in awe of what they could do. I wanted to be like her. When I saw somebody do something I couldn't do, I was the first one to run up to her and tell her how amazing I thought she was. And I wanted to know what she was doing and what her secret was so that I could be like her. I wasn't mad or jealous or wanted to take her out. I wanted to be like her. It allowed me to embrace, like I said, my differences, but also the similarities and the bond I had with my teammates. So I was allowed to be an individual within a group and learn how to work as a team. And I think that's something that when you're not a part of a team and you're not a part of sports, you don't get that discipline, you don't get that confidence, you don't get that ability to be able to work with others. And I think it's just, it's huge, especially now, also nowadays. I see that with the girls I work with, their confidence just soars when they get something that they've been working on for a long time. They're able to work through problems so much easier in life because of what they're going through with sports and with their teammates. So I think it's a massive part of life and needs to be available to everybody.
So you played professionally for a little while. What was that like for you?
I'd love to say it was all amazing, but again, back when I played, it was an amazing experience. To be able to say that I was a professional athlete. Again, growing up, we didn't have a lot of professional athlete females as role models. There wasn't WNBA yet. It didn't exist. We didn't have Danica Patrick driving around. We didn't have female boxers, or there wasn't UFC females. It was really tennis and golf. That was, the affluent sports is really all we saw. The Nancy Lopez's of the golf world, and Steffi Graf's of tennis. That's who I watched. And I wasn't as nimble as I thought I was. I was not going to be on a tennis court, that's for sure. So playing softball professionally it allowed me to be able to say that I was a professional athlete. And that was a dream I always had. And you would be surprised how many times growing up, whether I was, messing around with my brothers and his friends would say it, or parents of some of my teammates, I would hear, if only you were born a boy, you'd be in the major leagues, or you'd make $1 million a year. I would hear that so many times. You'd be a professional athlete. And it would make me so mad, that just because the gender I was born, I can't be a professional athlete. So when the opportunity came that I could, I was taking it. I wanted to just I didn't care if I made $5. Just to be able to say I was a professional athlete is all that I cared about. But it was hard. There wasn't a lot of support for the league when I played. There was really no TV coverage. So the only coverage we had were when people came to the games, and the marketing wasn't there. So a lot of times people, there's a professional league. We go around to cities and we tour, and we partnered with Major League Baseball for a few years. And so we do these free camps and clinics at the Major League Baseball parks, and we'd get a great turnout, but you'd hear 1,000 times, I didn't even know there was a professional women's league. So maybe we'd play in front of 20 people sometimes. Then we'd be lucky and we'd go to a bigger city and we'd have 1,000. It was so just random, and it was grueling travel. Literally for 3 months, you live out of a suitcase. And you're definitely not getting paid the millions, that's for sure. Sometimes some of us would actually lose more money to play in the summer than we would to actually make money and play, because we'd leave jobs to go play. But it was just for the love of the game. So it was worth it.
Well, that kind of nice segue into my next question, which is, as you noted, I mean, nobody's going to get rich playing softball. But what is it about that game that drives athletes to play it professionally anyway?
I think it's just the fact that for so long we had so many people, and specifically men, telling us that we couldn't do it, that women can't be professional athletes, and that our sport was soft, and you're not going to be as good as men. And I mean, I specifically heard it so many times, and you just want to prove people wrong. You want to prove that you work just as hard, that you can hit the ball just as far, that you could throw just as hard, if not harder, that you're just as tough, that you're just as aggressive, and it's okay. And you want to show the little girls, the little ones after you, like, it's okay to be an aggressive female. It's okay to be loud. It's okay to fist pump and scream when you're excited. You don't have to be the little dainty one in the corner, that can only speak when you're told to do so. It's okay to get fired up and dive and come up bloody and make a great play and scream and high five your teammates and just be able to play in front of crowds that share that excitement. And again, the game doesn't discriminate. So, you've got people like, I played with Stacy Newman. We're six, we were called the Twin Towers at one point because we were both 6 foot plus. And I believe, she's going to laugh, we collided at one point, and I believe my mom said the earth stopped when that happened because we are both very large women. And so it doesn't matter your size. What matters is your ability. And you've got the little slappers that can get down the line in 2.5 seconds and place the ball anywhere you want. And then you've got, big swinging bat girls like Stacy Newman that's hitting 1,000 home runs a year and, that 6'3" and looks the way she does. And who cares? All you do is you embrace their ability and look at it in awe. And that's just why I love the game. And I think that's what's the draw is to everybody. You don't have to be the gymnast and I love gymnastics. I had two gymnast roommates at OSU. So I love gymnastics, but I was definitely not hanging from parallel bars, if you know what I mean. So
yeah.
You don't have to be that 5'2", again, 100-pound female to be an athlete.
Yeah, I have to admit, I often get a little weepy at OSU sports events when I see these little girls going up and asking the athletes for their autographs. And I will really date myself. I mean, I grew up pre-Title IX. And so to watch what's happened now and to see little girls have those role models is so touching for me. And so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing so that you're still working with those little girls. And with you, they say not only can you be a great athlete, but you can also be a great business person and have your own business and be so successful professionally. So what was it like, though, for you to make the transition from being a player to being a coach? Because not everybody can do that.
Right. I think for me, honestly, I think it was a little difficult at first because I think I was young and you think everybody should get it kind of, like you got it as an athlete, and it doesn't work that way. And your patience is definitely tested. And so, I had to learn the art of patience. I had to definitely learn how to communicate better. I think that's huge. And you have to learn that everybody learns things a little bit differently. And they're not going to get it like you got it. I don't care if you're a football player, baseball player, it doesn't matter. But I think sometimes as young athletes, when we go in and we transition into the coaching, we kind of assume that, well, they're going to get it like I did. I just have to explain it like I learned it and they'll get it. But that's not the case. Sometimes it takes people a little bit longer. Sometimes you have to find creative ways to explain things, or, you may have to, some people are visual learners. Some people are auditory learners. Some people, they're more tactile and you have to like grab them and position them. And I definitely didn't know that. I kind of went in thinking, well, I just have to explain it once. They're athletes, they're good, they're smart, and they'll get it. And it was very frustrating in the beginning. But I worked for very good coaches that sort of guided me and helped me. And I had fantastic mentors. Kirk has always been readily available for me to call and ask. Pat Murphy at Alabama, he's in my phone speed dial. Like, what happens if you have an athlete that's like this? What do you do? Jackie Joseph, Michigan State, another coach that I've always had questions. And I think it's just you use people, you network, and you use people to help make you a better coach or a better whatever it is you're doing. Because I don't care how long you've done something, you don't know it all. And experiences definitely bring knowledge, and there's always going to be somebody that's done it longer and better than me. So I want to learn from them. I want to know, how can I continue to get better? And I'm always going to be the one asking other people, how can I do this? How can I do this better? How can I do it quicker? How can I, whatever it is. So that first transition was rough for me, and it was very humbling. Like, I got to get it together a little bit. I've got to learn how to communicate a lot better. I need to learn how to explain things, break things down better. But once I figured that out, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch athletes, it click for athletes. I think there's nothing better and rewarding than to watch somebody go through some sort of struggle and then see the light bulb turn on.
Yep.
And you just are so happy for them, just so happy. And when they jump up and hug you, or they high five you, or they're just smiling ear to ear, that is the most rewarding part of coaching. Like, I am so happy for that athlete, I can't even contain myself. And that made it all worthwhile.
Yeah, teaching's a lot like that. Seeing that light bulb go off is a little bit addictive, you know. It's, you want to see it again and again. Yeah.
It makes you just want to keep going.
It does. It does. Goodness knows I've been going long enough at it. The next question is a little bit long, so bear with me and I'll get through it. So even though softball has never had the same high profile as many other women's sports, it is one of the most widely played sports in the country in all sorts of ways and levels. And then the author of our book, Fastpitch, says, and I'm quoting here, that above all, softball is inclusive, not just of women, but of people of all different shapes and sizes and from all different walks of life. You've spoken to that a little bit already, talking about how inclusive it is. But what is it you think that, you know, sort of the average person out there who's playing soft pitch in the soft pitch in the community league, or who's playing also fast pitch in the community league? I mean, what is it that keeps people coming back to softball at every level?
Well, it's number one, I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's a fantastic game. It's just, you know, I've had so many friends and so many guy friends that now that it's become more televised and it's more accessible to so many more people. I have so many guy friends and coaches and colleagues that'll say, you know, I can't sit through a game of baseball because it's so boring and long, and it takes like an hour to get through an inning. But softball, it's so exciting and it moves so fast. I could sit and watch a doubleheader like nothing. You know, I hear that all the time. And I think it's true. I think it's a very exciting game. It's much more fast paced. I think you're seeing athletes at an extremely high level, and I don't care if it's slow pitch, it's still a fun game. You know, it doesn't matter. The game doesn't care, you know, how old you are, how young you are, what your size is, what your nationality is, what your, you know, economic status is. It doesn't care. The game is pure and true. It's not corrupted. And I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, I couldn't run around a soccer field probably more than 2 minutes. I'm going to be honest. I mean, if I'm not the goalie, look out. And even then, you still better watch out. And I'm certainly not a torpedo in the water. So, you know, it's my options at the time were, well, linebacker for the Chargers or softball, and let's hit it as far as you can and throw it as hard as you can. And, you know, I excelled at softball, and that's what it was. And I think that everybody can play this game. And yes, at a high level, obviously it takes somebody with a little bit more athleticism and skill, but there's just, it's not a cookie cutter sport. It's not in the sense where everybody has to look the same and be the same. It's a fun, exciting game. You're not going to be bored watching it. I think you have people launching home runs. You have pitchers throwing 70 miles an hour plus, and it's rise balls and these dirty changeups and things that people haven't seen. Yeah. And there's also this, I think, misconception that was there for so long that because it's called softball, it's soft. I've heard that so many, isn't it softer than a baseball? Well, let me hit you with it and let me tell you you tell me what you think, if it's soft, you know. And I just think that it's become, at one point it was the most played sport in the country. It was actually surpassing soccer in the most young athletes from 10 to 14 playing, which is crazy that it passed soccer, because everybody loved soccer at the time. And softball became the highest sport played. And I just think it's because it's so inclusive and it doesn't care about anything of your background.
Well, as you know, softball has been added back into the Olympics, if we get to have the Olympics anytime soon. What do you see as the future for softball?
Well, personally, I don't think it ever should have left the Olympics. Again, being, if you're looking from a statistical standpoint, it's, again, one of the highest played sports in the country as well as in the world. If you add in all the other countries, the TV ratings are just through the roof, with College World Series, with the regionals. It's just grown exponentially. So the fact that he even left the Olympics is just, I couldn't believe it. I just honestly couldn't believe it. But I'm so excited. I was so excited for friends of mine that are on the team, for young athletes in the future, for it to come back. I hope it never leaves again. It shouldn't. And the one thing, though, I am excited about is that it's become more competitive worldwide, if that makes sense. I know a problem was that the United States just steamrolled everybody.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why an argument was to take it out in the first place. There wasn't a lot of competition. But now you've got young players playing on other countries. You've got Daniel O'Toole Trejo, that's on the Mexican national team, who pitched at Arizona, fantastic pitcher. You have Daniel Laurie, Canadian national team. You just have, and I can name a ton, but it's going to be so much more competitive from a world aspect, which was going to also make it so much more exciting for everybody to watch. It's not just going to be United States and China or United States and Japan, which kind of was what it was for so long. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to make it even more exciting and appealing for it to stay for a long time. And not that people don't want to, not that I don't think people would watch anyway, but I think the fact that it's going to be so much more competitive and it's not going to be an easy pick on who's going to win, it's going to make it much more interesting. And I'm very excited. I don't see it leaving. I don't see it leaving for a long time again because of this. Mm-hmm. Mexico just made it in for the first time in a long time. I mean, that was so exciting to watch that game. I was crying for them. I was so excited for them.
Cool. Well, let me say to the folks who are watching that I'm wrapping up with my questions for Tarrah. So if you want to go down on that chat button and put in a question, Maureen will read it out for us, and Tarrah will have an opportunity to answer. But while we're waiting to see if folks want to put in some questions, Tarrah, I've got Joan Joyce coming on May 4th to talk to us like this. So
Joyce,
what should I be asking her? What do you think? What do you want to know?
She is just a legend. I mean, she is just, there's never going to be another Coach Joyce. There's just never going to be, I remember the first time seeing her and I was just awestruck. She is just a legend. I couldn't speak when I saw her. I mean, she's somebody that I read about, that I watched videos of. I was just in awe of her. And we didn't, again, have very many, women to look up to. And I remember thinking, I want to be like her. She's just amazing. And I just want to know what it was like for her. All this, I mean, I can't imagine the struggles that she had, growing up in her time and the obstacles that she had to face. I mean, I feel humble talking about mine, and I can't imagine what Coach Joyce faced, honestly.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah, I'm impressed that she's still coaching.
Oh.
I'm counting it down to retirement at 65.
There's been so many rumors of people taking bet. It's like a Vegas odds of when Coach Joyce is retiring. And no, it's like, is it this year? Is it last? Oh, every year it seems. And nope, she just keeps going, keeps going. It's like she never ages, just keeps going.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me check in with Maureen and see if have we had any questions come in, Maureen?
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Tarrah. Gosh, it was
my pleasure.
Very interesting, and we do have quite a few questions coming in. First question from William is, who was your biggest opponent when you played for OSU?
Well, from a team perspective, I know I'm supposed to say Oregon because they're the I-5 rival. But our biggest rival that we as a team had would be UCLA, partly because our coach Kirk came from UCLA. So we always kind of wanted to, I think, get him a little extra hard from a perspective that, and I think we always got a little jealous when we'd play. They would kind of hug on Kirk and fall all over him, and we want to get away from our coach. He's our coach now. So I think UCLA was our biggest rival as a team. For me personally, there's definitely some pitchers out there that I did not want to get in the box against, and some hitters that I would swallow extra hard. One being Stacy Newman. That came up on the 7 Innings podcast as her being one of the greatest hitters of all time. And I definitely left her a message on Facebook that she was one when I'd look over and see her on the on deck circle, I could feel my heart start to race and think, oh, she's back. So she was one I was terrified against.
Thank you.
My
we have
pleasure.
A question from Madison. She would like to know what your advice is for high school players looking to get recruited.
I think our sport has definitely evolved, and to say that you shouldn't start looking early that's not the case. So as soon as you have an idea of where you'd like to go, I think that you should start making contact immediately. I'm telling my kids that I coach who are 13 and 14, like, look, you need to start making your list now, sending emails, giving them your schedule, making contact, going to camps and clinics. You need to make yourself accessible and known. Coaches, they want to know that you're interested in them. They want to know that you want to be a part of their program. So I know it's a difficult time, and right now there's really nothing going on, but once camps and clinics start happening, go there, make contact with the coaches, go up and introduce yourself to them, tell them who you are, tell them you're interested, send those emails. Depending on what year you are, they may or may not be able to respond, but they're reading them, trust me. As long as you get their mascot right and the coach's name right, they will read them. That is my best advice. Make sure if you're emailing multiple coaches, you get the correct university, mascot, and coach's name right. Because if you mess up one of those, it's probably going in the trash pile. But start recruiting as early as possible, kiddo, and make sure you are persistent and diligent with it. You won't be annoying. They're going to say, that's that girl that keeps texting me or emailing me, and I've got to go see what she's about. Like, persistence is key, for sure.
That's great. Great advice. Just, that competitive spirit.
Absolutely.
Here's an interesting question. You've had such a full career already. When you look back, what are you most proud of in your career?
There's so many, I think, moments in my life and career that I'm proud of. First graduating, I think, is from Oregon State. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college, and that was huge for myself and my family and my parents. I know that was an extremely proud day for them. And, you don't really remember games, and you don't really remember scores, and, I can't rattle off records, but memories. And graduating from college, I think having my parents and my entire family there the last day I played my last game, that was huge for me when I took my jersey off for the last time. Having my number retired, that was a very proud moment. And again, my entire family was there. And at that point, my father was very sick. He had cancer, and he made it to be able to see that. And I was very happy that he was able to share that with me. But I think from a overall standpoint, I think my proudest moment, hopefully, is the impact that I have in the game overall and with the athletes that I've coached and continue to coach. I think that I want to be able to provide that role model that I think I necessarily didn't have growing up. I was coached by all men, all my coaches growing up. from a very young age were male. I was not coached by a female. In college, I was obviously coached by Kirk, and I was not coached by a female until I made it to the pro league. And so I love impacting lives. I love impacting and having that hopefully moment in their lives and their journey where I made a difference. I think that's my proudest moment, when somebody comes back and hugs me and tells me, thank you, coach, when they get that scholarship, or when they do something fantastic when I'm watching them in high school. I think those are my proudest moments, honestly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, here's a question, an interesting one I'm curious about too. William wants to know if you broke anything while playing, and if so, what was your worst break? So I'm assuming he means bones on your body, although it could be other things that you might have broken.
Well, full disclosure, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I have had several surgeries. I think I'm in the 20s now. And I had 4, maybe 5, it was a long time ago, knee surgeries while I was in college. 2 at the same time. That was an interesting recovery. And I've broken my glove wrist on a play at home. And this was my, I want to say sophomore year in high school, maybe freshman year in high school, but I continued to play after because nobody believed me that it was broken, especially my parents. So I kept playing. This was in the summer, and I ended up playing against one of my future teammates, Shauna Felt, who was a phenomenal shortstop at Oregon State. And when we met each other at college, she's like, I remember you. You were that crazy pitcher that couldn't even get your glove on because your wrist was broken. I'm like, that was me. And I also broke my kneecap, which led to several surgeries after that. So those are the 2 things I broke, but I've had a total of 11 knee surgeries. Yeah. Don't let that scare you, pitchers. Don't let it scare you.
Right. I think the final question that we'll end with is, what is the hardest thing to coach as a coach? I think you alluded to this, but you have more to say on this.
The hardest thing to coach.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if I'm talking about a physical thing or a mental aspect, because honestly, I think helping athletes deal with failure is very difficult. I think like the X's and O's of softball can be easy, if that makes sense. Okay, here's the ball, throw it to here, great. And you can teach the fundamentals of the game. Knowing how to translate that to athletes is definitely something that you need to be able to be creative with as a coach. But I think a lot of times you'll have great athletes, fantastic athletes physically, that emotionally and mentally haven't really been taught how to cope with failure. And as much as we want to say, softball isn't a game of failure or baseball isn't a game of failure, if you're a 400 hitter, you're an All-American. So let's put that in perspective. You failed 6 out of 10 times. You're going to make mistakes. If you're a pitcher, you're going to miss pitches. It's just how bad do you miss them? Do you miss them 300 feet over the fence? Do you miss it as a line drive to the shortstop? Do you miss it and the girl doesn't swing? So helping athletes learn how to cope with failure and overcoming that is very difficult. That's the most difficult part. And I've had teammates collegiately, professionally growing up, and I've had athletes that have played for me that were physically dominating, but unfortunately mentally and emotionally they couldn't handle that part of the game, so they never quite reached their potential. If that makes sense. It's such an important, the mental aspect of the game and the emotional aspect is such an important part of the game.
Sure, but I can really see how that would be a difficult thing to teach. Almost seems like you would have it or you wouldn't, or.
It's you have to sort of there's athletes, I mean, there's girls, especially females, and you have to know that you're dealing with females. And for me now, I'm dealing with females anywhere from 6 years old to 18. And I coach basically 11 to 14. That's the developmental years. So those are tough years. They're figuring themselves out. There's hormones involved. There's some days I think I come out with a lot more gray hairs, honestly, but it's very difficult. And you know, there's some girls that they just have it, and you know, like, oh, she's that one, she's going to be a good one. And then there's some that are a little bit more emotionally, they just haven't matured yet from that aspect, and they can't handle failure very well for whatever reason. So we as coaches have to be creative and kind of nurse them through it and hold their hand a little bit longer until they kind of figure it out, and not lose our patience in the process or our minds, if that makes sense.
Well, we have a question from another former OSU softball player, Tracy Fuller. I believe that she was a catcher. You know,
she
Tracy?
was my catcher.
Oh, great. Well, she wants to know what your favorite memory is from your OSU playing days.
Oh, Tracy. Of course, it's you sitting back there giving me. I miss my spot. Oh, Tracy, I love you, sister. And she was, Tracy made me, I have to tell this so everybody hears it. Tracy made me a better pitcher, without a doubt. If she wasn't catching me, I was having a rough day. She made me a better pitcher. She made me look good on so many days that I was not doing well. And she made me she knew how to handle me. She would call timeout and come out there and tell me to get it together, or she was going to smack me around, and that's what I needed sometimes. So I just think that, gosh, God, I love her. I use you as an example all the time, Tracy, too, when I'm talking to my catchers, is that they have to handle their pitcher. I always use you as an example, just so you know. But there's so many great memories, and it's with Tracy, it's with Shauna, it's with Jenny Jadoin, it's with Steph Adams, it's with Shelly Prohaska, it's all my teammates. It's, again, you don't really remember, you don't remember games, you remember like your teammates and the emotions that you had with them. Like when we beat teams we weren't supposed to beat, and us, you know, jumping on top of each other and celebrating or crying in the dugout, or those are the memories that you remember forever that I'll never forget. Do I remember, you know, the home run you hit here on this count or that? No, you don't remember that. Like there's no way. But you know, I'm not going to forget, you know, Tracy and her squad giving me the signs, or, you know, making fun of me or yelling at me from behind the plate because I, you know, missed my rise ball too low, and girls, you know, smoked it 200 feet, and her coming out and telling me I better get it together. And her as a freshman telling me that, and I'm a junior, and she had no problem yelling at me. I love that, you know, and those are the things you don't forget ever. So.
Well, that is great. That is all the questions that we have for now. Susan, did you have a question? You look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was going to actually put in a plug for our next conversation while we have
Go for it.
So next week, same time, we are going to have OSU softball coach Laura Berg coming to us, which of course I think is her most important title. I mean, never mind those 4 Olympic medals, and, you know, national championships. You know, she's our softball coach. And, you know, much as I love Kirk, it is so nice, like you said, Tarrah, to have a woman coaching softball. And so I hope Yeah. So I hope folks will tune back in. Maureen will be sending out links to register again. You can share those. People don't have to be in the book club to participate, but I'm really excited also to talk to Laura. I mean, I'm just amazed at this stellar lineup of softball greats that we've had. And so, Cara, I'm so grateful to you, and of course to Laura and Joan for their willingness to be part of this. So it's really, I think, going to make the book come to life.
Yeah.
You know, real life softball greats.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. So much fun.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing your story, and we'll hope to see you next week.
Absolutely. I'm going to be right there asking questions just like everybody else.
Great. Sounds good.
It's going to be Laura, so just come up with your list for her, and
I'll have 2 pages long, 2 pages.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.